reasons why I left Emerson, and I'm not dissing Emerson here, but I wanted to travel, right? That was part of the experience of going to grad school for me. But I also left a program that maybe wasn't as rigorous for a program that was going to challenge me a little more. And so, for instance, I went to a 3-year program that actually had a a real emphasis on literature. We had exams in our second year. We had to independently read um, 45 collections of short stories and novels from world literature and literature of the United States. That was just like separate from classes, which just was like incredibly exciting to me and made me also kind of stressed. And it was like, wow, this is really, I'm going to learn a lot. And in retrospect, I wish I had even challenged myself a little more. Um, but I did think that I took a turn when I transferred into discomfort, since we're talking about that, into this idea of like, oh, exciting, kind of raising the bar a little bit. Let's see how things work out if I just push myself a little more. And I thought that was really good for me as a young person. So yeah, I think that's a skill of like learning how to kind of pace yourself, but kind of push yourself at the same time steadily without burnout. And that was one of the things I kind of learned over those 3 years is just like, okay, I can do this in a way that's still sane, that I still have this life outside of grad school, but I'm also feeling like I'm every week I'm learning a lot. So I took a lot of poetry classes, which I didn't have to. That was really good for me. Um, Things like that, where it's just a little outside of my my normal frame of reference. So
Well, the part of grad school that I did not anticipate that going in, because I did, some of it was like I think about the highlight moments. There was one class with somebody who ended up being my mentor that was just kind of It was that class which, yeah, pushed me to think about things that I didn't even know I wanted to think about. It turned out I really did. But the thing that most surprised me was that what really mattered in the end, more than any of that, were my peers in the program.
mm,
Those are the people who are still in my life, whom I've gotten through a career alongside of. I just had not sort of envisioned that the other graduate students in the program would be at least as foundational to my intellectual life as my mentors. And so that was really exciting and it's been really sustaining. And I do think actually one of the things that I think is nice is that I think graduate programs are more aware of that. Like we're very aware of that in our program, and we also make sure that we admit smaller cohorts, and we set up the program to do a certain kind of cohort building function. You are moving through the graduate school is hard, right? As Nikki was kind of just describing, it's rewarding and it's hard. And the people who go through it alongside you are going to be front and center for you.
and to kind of echo just a little another thing to stack on that is like I think if you can avoid the social drama, like that's another
Mhm.
thing that I wish I had done just a time. I was okay at it, but I felt like I think any grad program, there's a kind of drama about who likes who and so on and so forth, just like the cattiness of it. And if you can kind of stay separate from that and focus on the positive parts of the relationships with your peers. And one of my experiences is that if you help others, then you get a lot of help back. So in terms of just like seeing someone who's struggling or something, it can be nice to step out and make a relationship there and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think just like getting humans together creates drama, and if you can find that as a skill to kind of so you can focus on the work and the relationships in a positive way, I think that's a really good thing to do.
I, when I have all the years I have talked with students about going to grad school, I talk a lot about what you said, Eva and Nikki, that For me, what came out of graduate school was community, were my peers, and they are my lifelong peers. And it was incredibly hard and incredibly challenging, and in some cases, politically so, because there's so much that happens in grad school that asks you to question your own identity and your affiliations. And, you know, I tell students also when they ask me what is the value of going to grad school, and one is that you gain a community of colleagues who will likely be your colleagues for the rest of your life. And they'll read your works, and you will go to conferences and you'll see each other. Your faculty will move from being mentor to colleague. And that's such an interesting and positive and rich experience. Um, and, for me in graduate school, creating writing groups where we had dinner together and read each other's chapters of our dissertations and turned it into both a fun and rollicking situation, but also really, really constructive and really helpful. And I had a dissertation writing group that hung together for over 2 years, and they are some of still my best friends. So yes, just to agree with what both of you said in a very, very strong way.
I will. So some of the teaching first classes are very memorable moments for me, but I've already emphasized teaching, I think, enough. So I was just gonna try to add another facet for people to think about. So in addition to community and intellectual support and I'll say that one of my highlights was doing archival research. Now, this is maybe the equivalent for you is working in a laboratory. I don't know. For me, I was writing about the history of 19th century visual culture, and I just threw myself into it. I applied for grants, won grants for travel. I went to archives I went to museums all over Europe. I went to zoos all over Europe and worked in their archives. I worked at the Museum of Circuses in Vienna, Buffalo Bill's Wild West in Wyoming. They have a heritage center there. So I just travel and meeting people, not only archivists, but other people doing research there, other historians. That to me was thrilling. And I was on my own in the world in a way that maybe also graduate school, we should also acknowledge that that's a little, I mean, in college too, you're kind of on your own, but there's still, for many people, a pretty, a rhythm where you go back for summer or break or something like that. And graduate school, that slowly changes, I think, maybe. And so just being on my own out in the world, exploring, asking questions and traveling and meeting people and doing research, even though the archives were sometimes stuffy and that was thrilling for me.